the guitar player in the band. Why don't we listen to a tune that he wrote that's called The Warm-Up? And this features some terrific instrumental escapades from Calgary's Bluesland Horn Band. This is from their new album, Radio Waves, here on CJSR Radio, heard on 88.5 in this fair city. This is the Bluesland Horn Band and The Warm-Up here on CJSR. That's The Warm-Up from the Bluesland Horn Band out of Calgary, Alberta, and their new album Radio Waves here on these beloved airwaves on CJSR. And this is something that we'll be discussing quite a bit for the next few minutes, because this group is playing here in Edmonton at Shaker's Roadhouse on Saturday evening. And I do believe through a stunning feat of technical savvy, I think I've got Terry Med on the phone with us. Are you there, Terry?
Hey, Grant. How you doing?
Doing great. I read you loud and clear. This is really cool.
Excellent. Well done, and thanks so much for the invite.
You bet. Well, long time in coming. Now, the Bluesland Horn Band is a group that we've enjoyed here on this program for a long time. For those that aren't familiar yet with the group, tell us a little bit about the history of the band.
Yeah, and thank you for the airplay, Grant. Really appreciate the support. We started with this version of the band in 2013. I had put an earlier version together around, 1998, 99 in there, and we did the first album. And we played around Western Canada for a number of years, and then we disbanded, and then got together again in 2013, and we've done 2 albums since then, and we're just currently working on our 4th album.
Wow, full steam ahead. That's great. And of course, as the name of the band reflects, the Bluesland Horn Band, horns are a big part of this blues group. Originally, it was like just the Bluesland band with sort of a horn section featured, but it really is sort of an integrated part of your sound these days, isn't it? That big band sound.
Yeah, for sure. We take a really broad view of the blues. You know, if it's funky blues, if it's straight up shuffle blues, or gospel blues, or soul jazz blues, you know, we love it all, and we like to play it all. We like to write in those different styles, and so anything that touches the blues, that's what we love to play.
And I should point out that not only are you the guitar player in the band, Terry, but you're also one of the chief songwriters. You're the producer of this new album, and you also did the recording engineering, if I understand correctly. Is that right?
Well, we have a little factory here. We have a project studio, and the economics are pretty difficult these days, aren't they? And so it's an advantage to have that, and you know, we just record away, and we get a little extra help on the mixing when the project is finished. We use Ken Burke, formerly the head engineer at Blue Wave, and we use Perry Barrett for doing mastering. He's down in Muscle Shoals, Florida now, I think. So we don't do it all, but we've got 4 writers in the band, and we really encourage everybody to to write, and then we just love arranging and fleshing out. We get some help from Miles Jackson on horn charts, and a few other guys, Johnny Summers and Neil McCallum in the first group. So we have a few different horn arrangers involved, and it's great fun. Just really love it.
Well, speaking of everybody in the band, other than, you have some special guests here and there, including Kenny Blues Boss Wayne, who plays some piano on the album Radio Waves. But when you come up to Shakers, for instance, on Saturday, how big is the band?
Well, we'll come up with an 8-piece group, and that's our core group. Once in a while, if we're around town or we're doing a CD release or something, we might augment with a couple more players. But 8-piece is typically what we use, so 3-piece horn section, and it's so nice to have that, that third horn, that buried down at the bottom. There, we love that sound.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the baritone saxophone. It really drives the whole, it's way down in the gutter, isn't it?
Comes up
from the bottom.
Sure.
Now, Terry, just before we get, I thought we might turn to a piece of work from that first album that you mentioned, and this is one that you recommended particularly highly to me, and it's a version of an old-time tune I originally know from Otis Rush, and this is from the first iteration of the Bluesland band, and in fact, the album was called First Street. When did this album come out?
Yeah, that was about 2002. Our singer at that time was Pat Hatherley, and Pat since retired, but we had a lot of fun with that group. And being a horn band, you naturally gravitate to the west side of Chicago. The south side was more the guitar and harmonica groups, and the west side, Magic Sam and Otis Rush and people like that, typically would have had horns in their group. And Otis Rush is such a passionate player. I liked his stuff, so I always admired that tune and thought we'd cover it.
All right, well, let's get to it. This is a version of Cut You Loose as performed by Bluesland, and I'm not about to cut Terry loose. He's going to be on the line to chat a little bit more after this and spin a little bit more music as well. I want to remind you that the 2016 edition of the Bluesland Horn Band out of Calgary, an 8-piece group, as it seems, are going to be at Shakers Roadhouse here in Edmonton on Saturday evening. This is Cut You Loose from Bluesland, and featuring here the Cold Sweat Horns on the album First Street on CJSR Calling All Blues.
I'm gonna
Cut You Loose. That is a version of an old-time song originally from Otis Rush, as performed there by what would eventually come to be known as the Bluesland Horn Band. That was kind of like the first version of the group. And today's edition of the band is, I guess Saturday's edition of the band is playing this weekend in Edmonton at Shakers Roadhouse. And Terry Med, who I guess it's pretty fair to say Terry is like the founder of the band as well as everything else, and guitar player, producer, co-songwriter, and so on. Were you the founder of the Bluesland Horn Band, Terry?
Yeah, we put that together, and I've usually done horn bands and such. We started in Edmonton and with the horn bands back in the 70s, 80s, and then when we moved to Vancouver, we played in a couple. I didn't have my own horn band out there. We were playing in smaller versions of like pub bands and that sort of thing in the North Shore. But then when we moved to Calgary, started putting horn band together again, and we're generally having our fun that way.
Well, yeah, let's take a little bit of a detour. Terry Med from the Bluesland Horn Band joins us on CJSR, and Cam Hayden coming up before too long as well to talk about the Edmonton Blues Fest in about 15 minutes. But Terry, why don't we just briefly take a little trip down nostalgia lane if we could? And you mentioned starting off in Edmonton. I know Pete the Rocker, the host of CJSR's The Shoebox, was really excited when I told him you were going to be on the show because he's familiar with some of your work from the Edmonton music scene in years gone by. Tell us a little bit about the acts that you were playing with before you made the move to the coast.
Yeah, well, I went to high school at Cebu Beach. We had a band out there. The blues came to me kind of two different ways. Through the big bands that my father enjoyed, and we had Louis Armstrong in the house, and that's probably the first blues that I heard back in the 50s. And then in high school, groups like the Yardbirds and such. We got our blues first through the British guys, and then figured out where they were getting the blues from, and kind of went back upstream there. So we had a high school group, and we had great fun, playing out in the pavilion there. And then came into the city, and guys from a couple different groups put together a group called Missouri. And we were doing the 2 guitar, 2 drums, organ, bass player thing, and we were working on songs by a brand new group called the Allman Brothers and things like that. So quite blues based, and then got into some of our first horn bands and started playing funky blues, I guess you'd say, and R&B, that sort of thing, and. Then the cabaret scene happened, and boy, there was a lot of work around for musicians back then. You had the taverns. Every hotel had a tavern, so they were employing a group 6 nights a week, and the lounge had lounge acts, and then there was these things called cabarets, and that was the back 3, the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and every hotel had them. So. And these taverns were huge. I remember the Kingsway must have been about 1,000-seater.
What?
Just insane, and talk about fun times playing in those places. And then the cabaret scene, got going. So we were forming up another kind of funky R&B group to play in them. And George Goodall and I formed. The Footloose group. I had a house in Strathern that one of those houses that you really don't want to have next to you, where there's a band in the garage playing all hours. So a lot of groups came out of that house. I used to sublet it out to musicians and such, and so we started. George and I put this group together. He brought Tim Feehan along. I brought Kurt from the last horn band that we had. And George and I both wanted to play with Dwayne Phelan, who was one of the funkier drummers around. We put the group together, and we just got really lucky. We were immediate success on the cabaret scene, and so we did that for about a year, and then recorded a song that Tim and Doug Buck had written. We demoed it in Mother's Music over on White there in the basement one night, and then took it into Damon Records, and Gary McDonald thought it had some real potential, so we set about recording it. We weren't really good in the studio then, so it took us, better part of a month, I think, to get that recording done. But it turned out to be a big success for it. Not immediately, we took it around to all the radio stations, and typically you don't, get airplay on your first try. And there was a lady in Windsor named Rosalie Tremblay who started playing it, and so we started getting requests in the Detroit, Windsor area.
Famous figure, just honored at the Junos this past year, as a matter of fact.
That's right, and so deserved it, because she broke so many records, just because she would choose to play what she liked to hear, and then the chains would pick it up. And after she started playing it, it came back across the prairies. We had no marketing dollars or anything. It kind of went under its own steam.
Yeah.
It went to number one in quite a few markets. So we had our kind of 15 minutes of fame, and we did an album after it, and had a lot of fun doing that. And,
awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing, like the things that can happen over the course of a musical career, including sometimes the odd number one record just kind of like pops out at you. That's, that's so neat, and it's so cool that you have these Edmonton roots as well. And I'd like to point out as well, for those that are particularly savvy Edmonton blues fans, maybe I'm biased because I'm a drummer, but like a band of this size, like the Bluesland Horn Band, needs a really great drummer, and you've had at least a couple of expatriate Edmontonian drummers in the band that I know of, including Peter Hearn on the first record we were just checking out, and also Kenny Chalmers on the latest one.
Yeah, both great drummers. When we wound down the Footloose project, George and I, we just added horns, and we had Ken Hillaby playing keyboard. We added Ken and a few other folks, and then Peter Hearn on drums. And he's just great, and it's been so neat having him down here in Calgary. He's playing quite a bit down here.
Yeah, a lot of people will remember him from the days of Three Times the Blues, among other projects. That was
right on, sure. He's a busy guy, and of course the fabulous Kenny Chalmers, with the Fifth Avenue All-Stars in Edmonton and the R&B All-Stars in Vancouver. Kenny kind of, he started in Edmonton, didn't he? He went out to Vancouver kind of as I did, and then landed up in Calgary, and now for the last year and a half or so, the drum chair is being filled by Gavin Saroshan. And if you heard the new record, Radio Waves, Gavin's on most of that, and he's a fabulous drummer. He can go to the Sam Lay shuffles, or more of the funky kind of linear drumming, and he can read. So he's always there for the horn shots and that sort of thing, which is important in a horn band.
Yeah, you got to be a pretty good team player to be in a band that's of this size. And as Terry mentioned, it's 8 pieces at a minimum, and they're going to be playing with the 8-piece lineup coming up at Shakers Roadhouse on Saturday evening. This Saturday, that's the Bluesland Horn Band from Calgary, and Terry Med is the guitar player. He's also the producer of their music and one of the chief songwriters. And Terry, speaking of mixing things up, this is another song that you wrote. I thought maybe we could go out on this one. This is, for me, is a real highlight of the latest record, Radio Waves, which just came out earlier this year, and this song's called Trying to Get Back. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this one before we dig in?
Yeah. Well, Grant, you never know where these songs come from, do you? But sometimes they just kind of emerge, and this was this was kind of a Southern Bloodhounds on Your Trail kind of song that just emerged, and so we had some fun. And the songs go where they want to go. We just try and channel them and stay out of their way. But this one said, I'm going in a little bit of a country direction on this one, so we just went along for the ride and had a lot of fun doing it.
Okay, great. Well, speaking of lots of fun, this has been just that. Thanks for visiting, Terry, and hope to see you in person here at CJSR Studios one of these times.
Yeah, absolutely, Grant. Thanks so much for your support of the bands and the blues and such. You guys do a great job, and look forward to seeing everybody out at Shakers Roadhouse this Saturday night.
Yeah, you bet. Very excited about that, and congratulations on the success of the new record, and really looking forward to the visit on Saturday at Shakers. And
super.
And Terry, thanks again. We'll catch you down the line, hey?
You betcha.
All right, that's Terry Med. This is the Bluesland Horn Band on CJSR.